Hey everybody, I'm just kind of booting up here, so if you'll kind of stand by with me for just a minute, we'll get started here in a minute once everybody gets a chance to kind of log in. I'm going to try and do my best to answer the questions that you have in the chat. One of the things that you can do is tilt your phone sideways if you're watching on that kind of device, and that'll make it opaque with the comments there, and you actually turn them off in the top part of your screen. So I'm just trying to make sure. There were a couple last minute folks jumping into the band app. Right here, I'm pulling it up so I can keep an eye on my stream as well. So hope everybody's doing really good tonight. I'm going to try and go through a few items that we can go over. There's still a lot of unknowns. We'll talk about some of those things tonight, but I want to go over some things so we're all on the same page as we kind of move into the next couple of months. So like I said, just trying to pull into this. Ms. Hackney or Angela or Bethany, if y'all are able to approve some of the members that are trying to join in right now for me. I just don't have enough screens to do that. I see Ms. Carter and Susan and Lucas. Hello to everybody. We're already at 76 and climbing, so that's a good sign in our live stream. Thank you, Ms. Hackney. I'm a little behind on my phone from what you're seeing with a little bit of just regular delay for broadcasting. And so if I don't answer your question immediately, I got a couple people, our booster presidents and our assistant band director for next year. Ms. Hackney is going to take that position on and be my big helper. She already was this year. We talked a little bit about that role, and I think that'd be a great place for her to be. So she's going to be stepping into that role moving into next year. So congratulations to her. But they're going to be kind of parading through the chat because with that many people, there's a chance that I may miss some things while I'm talking to you. So like I said, I just want to say hello to everybody. And just kind of scrolling our comments here. Yeah, that's totally fine, Ms. Kopesky. Sharing devices is 100% okay because that kind of cuts down on the internet speed usage there. Let's see, Miss Rushing and Miss Sheck and Abby Farquhar and Angela and Ronald Davis. Let's see, Miss Hunnings and Carlos. Awesome. Hope everybody's doing pretty good tonight. We're going to take a couple more minutes and just give everybody an opportunity to get logged in and to find it. This is pretty new. I've been doing good afternoon with some of the kids during the 12 o'clock hour where I just wander through my neighborhood aimlessly all by myself with my phone. And we just kind of chat and talk about some things going on, ask them how the things are going. So if you want to jump in and do that and participate in that, you're more than welcome to. I think it's been a really positive spot, at least in my life, and hopefully for the students who have logged in. We've usually ranged around 15 to 20 folks, so not too many. It's right in the middle of the day, so some folks aren't able to do it anyway, but it's just for us, whoever wants to participate in that. Yep, we're about to cross 100, so we'll see how well this is set up for big groups. Let's see, I see Ryan and Levi, Alyssa and Nellie, Julie, DJ, Maya, I haven't seen Maya in a while, and Nick, Lisa, and let's see, and Don, haven't seen him in a hot minute either. Hope you're doing good there, Don, you and Mitzi and Reagan and everybody. Mr. Levitt, our student teacher, going above and beyond. He's still been engaging with our students during this time of break, even though he doesn't have to, as this semester has kind of wound to a close a little earlier than he had anticipated, but he's done a really great job handling that and helping me out with things. To see Kimberly, Nathaniel and Will and Jaleesa, Deanna, let's see, Elizabeth's on, Carla, Jennifer, Marla, Michelle. It's like roll call right now, right? It's like we're on bus 2 and bus 3 doing roll call on the way back from our marching band competition. Heather Dobson. Awesome. I see a lot of new faces, I guess new names that I'm not familiar with. So guessing that those are a lot of our future ninth grade students. I'm really excited that y'all were able to get logged in and get this turned on and working. There's Elliot and Jeffrey, Angel Hay, senior but still here. I love it. Caroline, Miranda. There's Elizabeth again. Bus one can get kind of rowdy too. Y'all got a lot of speakers, but y'all do tend to sleep sometimes when it's really late. Bryce, yeah, you just bump the music. That's one of my favorite bits. Here for your sister. That's awesome. Yeah, if you see Angela or Bethany, they are Etowah booster parents. So they are kind of in charge of our booster club program and helping make sure that things get run like they're supposed to. They do a really great job too. So I've asked a couple of them to keep an eye on the chat, answer any questions, and just kind of help me navigate through the meeting here. So we're just going to give it another couple seconds here before we jump off on the meeting officially. Bus through is the party bus. Yeah, y'all pretty rowdy back there. But you got to have a good time. There's Jonathan and Cindy. Hopefully it will smooth out. Sam, that sounds like a good thing for you to email me about. Is anybody else seeing me kind of glitch out a little bit as we're going here? Feel free to drop in the comments and let me know. Trying to learn some new technology here. I was telling somebody the other day, I know people joke about people being boomers. I'm not quite a boomer because I'm not a boomer generation, but I definitely have noticed with this change in teaching that I have some boomer moments. About every minute, just a little bit. Okay, all right. I do know that if you're having trouble viewing it, I did a test earlier. I had some people jump in with me. That the video that I'm recording right now on top of just the live broadcast was nice and smooth. And I'm going to save that one as a post in the band app. You can watch later, so if somebody's unable to join us live, they can go back and watch it. Or if you need to reference anything we go over tonight, you can do that. And then I'm going to try and upload that to YouTube, and that way we can share out the link for that as well. So, all right, so it looks like it's minimal unless you're misrushing. At the top there, the live counter is in minutes, so it's gonna take a whole minute for it to go up to 8. So hopefully my video, Melinda, is moving faster than that, but it must just depend on who. So we're up around 105. So we're gonna go ahead and kick this off. This was intended to be a meeting in the auditorium with all of us face to face and be able to go over this information and then answer questions and me hang around afterward. If you've got a question as a result of this, or maybe you just were sitting on a question you had about next year, especially if you're an incoming student or family, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is Stephen, STEPHEN .long, at CherokeeK12.net. And you can send me an email, even if you're an 8th grader and I'm currently not your band director. I am your band director, and feel free to reach out to me. If you need something, whether you're a parent or a student in 8th grade. I know Mr. Johnson's been working with you guys down there at Booth, different assignments and helping get instruments to folks so y'all can practice in the new normal for the time being. So, so just checking a couple of these. Down here on my phone again just to see where we are. So I'm gonna, if my folks watching the chat will watch the chat, I made some notes. As my students know, I can get on a tangent and talk for too long, and we've only got 2 hours to get this done. JK, it'll be done faster than that. So welcome to my living room at my house. I'm glad you could join me. I even put on some fancy clothes. So it was a little bit nicer, but it's definitely a new normal. I want to cover a couple of things tonight. First of all, I want to talk to students that are out there and kind of get a feel for how you're doing just on a day-to-day basis, because things are a lot different. Your classes are different. The stresses are different. The expectations are different. Some of y'all are picking up shifts at work in the morning and doing schoolwork at night, where that flexibility may be good because you're able to make some more money. It definitely changes changes your approach to things, and changes those stress levels. I know that I can say just for myself that yesterday's news from the governor, while it makes logical, rational sense that we need to stay at our houses and be safe, I'm still very sad. And there's a little tinge of anger there too, that we weren't able to have our final performances together. The Winter Guard wasn't able to have their final performance. The 8th grade band wasn't able to have their final performance. I wasn't able to have final performances with the bands and the orchestra at Etowah here at the end of the year, because those are really special moments. We play really fun music, we have a great time and make great memories, and that was kind of taken away from us. And so I'm sad, and I'm kind of angry at the world. A little bit, and I think that's okay. I can't wallow in that for too long, because there's things that need to be done so that we don't have to stay in that environment for too long. So students, if you need something, reach out. Parents, if you need something as well, reach out to us. The school district has some avenues for help in different ways, from food to other services. If you need help figuring that out, one, check their Twitter, social media accounts, and the county website. But you can also reach out to me if it's specific. I'll keep your business to ourselves, so everybody doesn't have to know. But if you need some help, get some help. With that, I think, and my hope is that as we look to next year, because that's kind of what we're doing, we still are going to have some kind of digital learning classes moving forward after break next week. But my hope is that this time we've spent apart really refocuses us, so when we are together again, we have a new perspective on the work that we do during rehearsals, at home for practice, the way we approach studying, maybe the way we approach our relationships with other people. Maybe you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to that friend at school before you got locked in your house for the foreseeable future, and maybe that's got you stressed out. So I think this whole situation puts a lot of things into perspective that maybe we allow ourselves to get really, really busy about, and don't really stop and think about how we're approaching things and how we're focusing on those things, so we can be more efficient as we move forward. And I think we're going to celebrate that day when we get back together again, whether it be band camp or maybe we have another time that we get together before then to check out instruments or things like that. And we'll be able to celebrate that, and it'll be really, really special, something that wouldn't have happened had we not all been locked in our houses for so long. So I wish there was another way to navigate that kind of excitement and joy and celebration without having to go through the rest of this. But I think it's going to be really fantastic when we get there. So next I want to focus on three things that's gonna help guide us for the next 3 months. I've tried to think of something to help us navigate where we're going to be going that won't change, even though everything's been changing. And I think one of the things that or three things that are going to kind of help us do that is I feel like we want to provide for you students and parents an enjoyable, an educational, and community enriching experience. If we can make sure that we're still doing those three things this fall, regardless of what the economy looks like, regardless of what school looks like, regardless of anything at all, I think if we can make sure we stick to those three things, one, we'll have a good time because it'll be enjoyable. Two, it'll be educational, so we'll learn something and we'll grow. And community enriching, if you think about our community, especially by the time we get to fall, everyone will have been social distanced ad nauseum, and we'll really want to be back in community with other people, especially on a Friday night at a football game, because it's familiar. And so we'll have a unique position in our community to help spur on the positivity and the happiness and the joy that our community is going to need. So I think if we stay on target with those three things, they'll help us navigate a lot of the other stuff. So that being said, I'm going to enlist the help of my wife to be my screen changer person, and I'm going to step out of frame so you can see behind me, hopefully well enough on the TV. We'll post this on the website as a separate link, this PowerPoint that we're going to go over now. So if you have trouble reading it, I tried to test a couple of things, and this is about as good as I could figure out how to do. So we're going to move over to the second slide. Yep.
Up and down or right and left?
Right and left. So we're going to talk about time commitments, because that's a lot about marching band is time commitment, regardless of what's going on anywhere else. There's a lot of practice time and whatnot that needs to happen. What forms are going to be required in order to be signed up for next fall. And we'll talk briefly on cost and due dates. not specifically, because like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty, which we'll talk about towards the end. I want to make sure that our students have access to this activity, regardless of what financial burdens may be placed on parents at home. And that's a very different statement right now than it was 6 months ago. So I want to make sure that I'm sensitive to that as the director, that we are wise with our money habits, so that we can take care of our students the best that we can. So we'll move on to the time commitment slide and talk about some important dates that will be coming up as we move into next year. Let's see. I'm going to try and switch back over into my band app. Let's see what all's been going on in the chat. So the first thing here is students are expected to practice music and drill as often as time will allow. That's the typical practice at home in between rehearsals. Get with other students to practice. And this ensures full participation, safety in rehearsals and performances. Upperclassmen know this really well. Eighth graders that will be joining us for the first time in the fall, knowing where your position is crucial for the safety of both yourself and the people around you, because we move past each other. We're focused on a lot of different things, and we're having to play or spin equipment all at the same time. And so really knowing what your job is really step one. It's not the goal of the season to learn your part, but to learn how your part fits in with everything else. Step one is learning your part as fast as possible so that you can spend the rest of the time learning how your part fits in with everybody else. So that's really what the practice time comes down to. We have a parking lot that's lined off. Obviously, right now, we don't need to be out there. I don't want to encourage you on going up to the school. There's a camera on our corner of the building. They'll know, and they'll know it's one of our folks, and then I'll get an email. So don't be that student. You can work out in your yard and in your driveway. I'd encourage you not to practice in the street so you don't get run over. But we'll be trying to make some videos on how to do things like forward march and attention posture as we go into the summer, especially if we have some additional time on our hands. Upperclassmen students may reach out to you and see if you can help me with a few things too. Sorry, I'm just checking on a couple of these things here in the chat to see what's going on. All right, you're doing great. You're doing great, band folks. So that kind of covers just regular practice. All rehearsals and sectionals scheduled by me and the band program are mandatory. It's really difficult to make up a missed practice. If you miss a day of math class, you can work on the worksheet on your own, get some extra help outside of class. But when you miss rehearsal, it's really hard for you to practice through it the way you would have if you were there. Say you're a trombone player like I happen to be, and you miss rehearsal. There's no way to get the whole band back together for you to learn and do those repetitions. So it's really important to be at rehearsal. Again, that comes into you should know your part when you walk into rehearsal, but you're there to help the person next to you learn their part and how it fits together. So those are mandatory. Section leaders may ask and request for students to have sectionals, or maybe they decide to meet up at Hopgood Park or wherever on their own. I just ask when that happens of my section leaders. They make sure parents are communicated with and everybody's on the same page. And if a parent's not comfortable with it, that's 100% okay. But sometimes students just like to meet up in the park, especially drum folks, and get practice pads out and bang away. So that kind of covers that. Pre-band camp, and again, these dates are for right now. If things are to change, these dates could get adjusted. This will be the most involved that marching band will be next fall. The most amount of dates and times that we would see. So kind of keep that in mind. The situation we're in right now is ever changing from day to day. I think because they have more data, they're getting better at forecasting, but it's even still not very long range, and we're trying to forecast to this fall. Pre-band camp, which is the week where we do a lot of fundamentals, we learn music and get to know each other a little bit, is July 13th through the 17th. And we run that from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. We expect students to eat lunch before they show up and bring a dinner with them that doesn't need to be refrigerated or heated up in a microwave, because we won't have access to those things. That could be in a lunchbox, or parents could drop off food for their kids. They just won't be able to leave campus during these times. We just don't want anybody getting run over during these practices. So again, that's pre-band camp. So beginning of mandatory rehearsal starts on July 13th, and we'll run through that Friday on the 17th from 1 to 9. In the PowerPoint, it's hard to see because it's small because I put way too much per slide. But dinner will be from 5 to 6 o'clock, so you'll be able to plan for that. And that also helps us kind of digest our food a little before we go outside. We'll spend the 1 to 5 o'clock inside because it'll be too hot because we live in Georgia. And then at 6 o'clock, we'll transition outside and work on fundamentals or music outdoors. So the next thing on the slide here is band camp proper, which are our... See, everybody gives me a hard time because I call pre-band camp half days, and they're full days. And then band camp second week I call full days, and they're 12-hour days. But it goes from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Two reasons for the extended time, especially for my new families that are coming up from E.T. Booth. Because it's so hot in the middle of the day and our activity is all outside, we go out in the morning and we learn drill and we work on fundamentals and do a lot of work in the morning. Up till lunch or whenever the heat sends us inside. We follow county regulations on wet bulb tests and all that kind of stuff, just like football and other outside sports do. And then at lunch, we transition inside to eat. And then we'll work on sectionals and things in the air conditioning during the hot part of the day, all the way up till dinner, which will be, again, at 5 o'clock. And then after dinner, we transition back outside as it's starting to cool off again and continue our work with marching and usually marching and adding the music to the drill we learned that morning. Again, it's real small, so I'll just read it a little bit to you. Students will need lunch that day to bring with them or dropped off. We do a sign-up genius for band camp, and parents help cook. And so we'll send that out at some point over the summer. Things like pans of pasta. We do Taco Tuesday, and Friday we finish up and we order pizza for everybody because everybody's exhausted and tired and don't really want to do anything anymore. So we just eat pizza and then throw it in the trash. Kind of keep a lookout for that. And dinner from 5 to 6 again, so we'll ask those parents who are helping cook or helping serve to show up a little bit before that. And again, we'll do a sign-up genius for that. But students will need to bring their lunch those days. That way they're not having to bring two meals on campus at the same time. And it also gives the students an opportunity in the cafeteria to hang out and enjoy each other's company. So that kind of takes us through band camp. And this year, with the way the schedule works with pre-planning, at least right now, there is one Tuesday and one Thursday before school starts. And so we'll practice that Tuesday and Thursday at our normal time. And this year, upperclassmen, please note that we're moving earlier 1 hour for practice. So Tuesday and Thursday, we'll start our Tuesday-Thursday practices that next week, July 28th and 30th, from 5 to 8 p.m. Again, that gets us there in the afternoon as it starts to cool off. From upperclassmen they're thinking about the fact that football is usually on the field on Tuesdays until right at 6 o'clock. Our plan right now as a staff is to do about an hour of fundamentals, marching and playing fundamentals, split up with our staff. And get a lot of good work done there so that when we hit that 6 o'clock time, we're working as a full ensemble just about all the way till the end of practice. So we've got a little bit different setup there that will help with that, and we'll transition down into the stadium as we're able to. We have a new head football coach that I haven't had a chance to reach out to yet, so I have to kind of see how that relationship works. I'm really excited about getting to work with him. He's coming over from Roswell, where my wife used to teach. And I think Mr. Sanderson used to teach over there too, and so I imagine they probably know each other really well. And I'm excited about their new hire and getting to know the new coach and kind of what he expects on Friday night. I imagine it'll be very similar. We're really loud, and that's usually what a good coach is looking for. At least while they're on defense, try and mess up the other team a little bit. So that kind of takes us through post-band camp. And again, you'll see underneath post-band camp, the students should eat dinner before arriving. And then we have our weekly rehearsal schedule. This will start that very next week. We'll start Monday sectionals from 3:45, so right after school, until 5 o'clock. And those are run by our students. And we split up into different classrooms, and we're inside again because it's too hot to be outside. And we work on our music, making sure it's memorized, making sure we're ready to go, learn any stand dances and things like that to get ready for football games. If the weather's cool enough, sometimes section leaders will come ask me before going outside if they can go check some drill sets, or maybe they've noticed their section needs to work a little bit on just marching and playing at the same time and want to go march around the parking lot a little bit. But that lets us check the wet bulb to make sure that it's not too dangerous for students to be outside in the Georgia heat. But that's primarily inside right after school on Mondays. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we already kind of covered this with the post-band camp rehearsals, but these run each week all the way through the season unless we're out of school for a break, from 5 to 8. And again, upperclassmen, note that that's a different time than we've been doing since you started in band at Etowah. 2 reasons for that. 1, there's too much dead time after school with students who are needing to hang around for because they don't have a ride home and then back. And it gets us home a little bit earlier. We've had one thing that gets brought to my attention every year is parents wanting their kids home before 9 o'clock each week. So that should help address that a little bit too. And with us expecting a child, I've got to transition into being daddy long a little bit too. And so that'll help me kind of in my personal life too. And I appreciate your flexibility on letting us do that. So that kind of takes us through the time commitments. Again, all of these rehearsals will be loaded into the band app calendar, and the marching band calendar is marked by light blue dots to help color code that a little bit. You can actually sync your band app calendar to your phone. I'll try and make a tutorial video on how to do that in the next couple weeks to help those of you that are new, or maybe you didn't know that was a feature. And that way, if anything's added, deleted, changed, it'll automatically update on your phone. Just like I'm a big Atlanta United fan, and I've got their season schedule subscribed to my phone calendar, and so when they change things like any match that was supposed to have been played in the last month to whenever, it'll automatically update. So I'm always working on the most up-to-date information instead of what I remember to put into the calendar. So I'll try and make a how-to video on that. So are there any questions, I guess, so far on time commitments before we move on to the next thing? Again, I'm just a little bit behind the chat window, so I'll slow down here just a little bit. I appreciate y'all helping get folks plugged into the band app. Awesome. Daddy long legs. I guess I'm not that tall though, Abby. Well, Jackie, we'll make sure and post this out there too, so people can get access to it as well. And I should be able to share this to the Winter Guard band as well. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday every week. That's correct. Unless we're Labor Day or whatever, we're out of school on a Monday, then we wouldn't have sectionals that day. But we would have our regular Tuesday, Thursday practice those weeks. So Miss Check's got the invite. So especially Sierra Grace, I see you're working on that a little bit there, helping get some of those maybe Winter Guard members that weren't already in the regular band app. Perfect, Miss Angela, Miss Bethany. Thank you for your help. Getting folks in here. And Miss Hackney. Yeah, there they go. I see them starting to try and get in. If somebody can just approve them, they can hop into our video here. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move on. We'll circle back for some questions in a little bit. We'll move on to the next slide here of what forms are required for participation. I think we started at Etowah a couple years ago, maybe 3, requiring physicals, athletic physicals, because we're out in the heat, and we don't want our students to get into jeopardy just because we're not GHSA sanctioned as an activity or a sport. Doesn't mean that we won't befall some of the same heat condition injuries that a football player would. A lot of times we're carrying a lot more weight and we're moving around a lot more because we're also doing the cardio of having to take controlled breaths while we play. We just want to make sure everybody was safe. So we started doing physicals, and now the county requires it for marching band and JROTC. So if you're already an athlete at Etowah and you have a physical on file, you will just need to make sure that I know that you're on the athletic director's physical list, and it needs to be current, which means it needs to go from July through January at least, because we'll have a parade in December to go to. And will be part of marching band, and you need to be covered with that through that time period. So if you're new, it's a great time to jump in and get in the flow of physicals. Obviously, right now, it's probably not going to be easy to get a physical, so don't panic. Right now, I would just hold off because doctors are a little distracted with things that are a little more important than a routine physical. And you also don't want to put yourself in a position where you might be somewhere where you could pick up some germs you don't want to have. So I'd hold off on the physical for now. The county also hasn't put out the updated physical form, and if you turn the wrong one in, they're pretty sticklers for having the correct form. It can be frustrating sometimes, but it also tells us to be patient and just wait and get the right one when it's time. So it says each student must have a registration form filled out digitally. So we're moving that online. That was the plan this year anyway, because it helps keep data and records a little bit more concise, consolidated, and you can read it easier because people type it in. By the marching deposit deadline, we're going to make the deadline for this form April the 20th. So I'll go back and adjust this presentation a little bit before we post it, but we'll try and have that done by April the 20th. That way we know who all is anticipating participation in the marching band. And that way 8th grade parents will have your email and stuff, so we don't have to send communication through Mr. Johnson, because he's got a lot of stuff he needs to do just for his students too. That way he's not having to do double duty. And then it says each student must have a medical information form filled out digitally. This is to make sure that, if your kid comes up because they've got a headache and they want some Tylenol, that we can give them some Tylenol, or if they're allergic to it, that we don't give them some Tylenol. We always make sure to call and check in with the parent before we give any medication. We keep a log of that in the first aid kit bag, and if you're a parent that helps out with water duty or at competitions and is helping with that, we'll make sure that you're trained on how to do that. It's pretty simple, but we always want to check with the parent, even if it's something minor, just because the last thing we want to do is have an outdated form. We give somebody some medicine that it says we can give them, and then they have an adverse reaction to that. We want to make sure everybody stays safe and healthy. So we want to make sure we fill that out. That, again, is going to be digital this year, which, again, was our goal, even without all this coronavirus stuff. And both of these forms I've talked about so far are through Google, so that I can have some assistance from my executive board and going through all this data, so it doesn't take so long with me doing all of it by myself. So it's nice and slick, that Google feel. So we'll post those links both in this PowerPoint as well as just online. The next thing here, it says every student must have a current physical, which we talked about already, on file with either the band office, so with me, you turn it in directly to me, or with the athletic office. And a couple things to note about that. There are a couple additional places where we notice a lot of people forgot to sign, because there's 1,000 places for parents and students to sign. The first one was on the page where there was the insurance. So make sure that you pay attention to that part. One, put your insurance information there, and that's in case something happens. Somebody slips and falls in the band room, and we got to get them looked at. That helps us get that process started faster while we still contact the parent. The next thing was the Appendix J, which is the student code of conduct for athletes. And the big addition there, and reason for it this last year, was to address the vaping policy. That was a big issue on campus prior. I assume it did some good. I was happy that we didn't have to address that as a band program this last year. So that was a really good job by students. Let's see. CCSD updated dates. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea, Cindy. I wish I did. It's usually way later than it should be. They had planned on having a physical day on May the 2nd. Obviously, we won't be able to do that anymore. So I would hope maybe by May 2nd they'll have the forms finished. But now they're sidetracked with figuring out how to curtail the academic calendar, how to close down the end of the year with things all digitally, things like how to inventory textbooks and band equipment and all the regular stuff that we have to do anyway as a school. So I imagine they'll probably be primarily focused on that, but we should get some information around about that time. So boom, yes, awesome. Thank you, parents, for helping me answer questions. All right, links to each of these forms. This is the next bullet point here. can be found on the Etowah Band website. We'll have these uploaded there. We're working on a revamp of the website to make it even more streamlined. There's an extra tiny bullet under the physicals that talks about if you intend to participate in Winter Guard for next winter, your physical needs to cover July through May. So you're covered for an entire academic school year because you need that physical for Winter Guard also. I know that I think it's Walgreens nearby, or CVS, does a really quick physical there for like $20-$30. I would guess that they're going to still continue to do that. Again, I would not rush out and do that right now just because of the way things are. I'd hold off on that until things either calm down or doctors start going back to normal mode. You don't want to take a healthy person and put them next to a bunch of sick folks and then bring them home. So that's not good normally, but definitely not now. So I'm going to kind of put a pause on our talk here and ask if there are any questions about forms. Just throw your question in the chat, and I can answer that. Miss Bethany and Angela and Hackney can help me answer those. Awesome with the website plug. Thank you. Yes, you can join Winter Guard and Marching Band the same year. They're two separate seasons, and they'll have two separate auditions. I think in the past, auditions for Winter Guard have been around November. We want to get past marching season at least by a few days, and we'll get that information out usually in October. So that really keeps up all of your skills from year to year, participating in both. I guess one thing I can pause here and talk about is color guard moving into next year. With us not being able to meet in person is real difficult because new faces won't necessarily have access to guard equipment. So one of the things I've talked with a couple of my team about is if you marched in the winter guard or the fall guard or both for 2019-2020, so the school year we're currently in, we're going to automatically accept you for next fall, since we don't know if we'll have an opportunity to do any tryouts. If you are an 8th grade cadet guard and you are planning to march this fall, and you marched in the Winter Guard program this last winter season, you'll also be promoted to the high school guard, because there's just not a way to do those auditions. And talking with Ms. Page and Ms. Hackney, that makes the most logical sense if we're going to have a color guard. So you both can know that you're planning to do it. We have something to plan for as far as numbers go. And then if we have an opportunity to do some auditions, we'll open that up to some new faces. And so my band students proper will probably put together a poster and get our schools to send that out to their address list and get you all to share that on social media for us so we can drum that up, whether that's, late May, early June when we're allowed to be back together again and we put something together, or whether that's the first 2 days of band camp in July. If we can do some guard trials, we obviously have done a big push, and our guard did a really great job this fall and this winter at recruiting and talking with students, and we went and performed. So our goal is to grow that as we go year to year, and this is kind of getting in our way a little bit for real. So if we can have an opportunity to do some tryouts, it'll just be for those new faces for this year, for this coming year. Yes, Sarah Ha. What if you play a sport as well? Is there a way to make time for both? It depends on which sport that Carter's got it there. We have some folks who play lacrosse. We have some folks who played a variety of different things, and we're able to work out most things as far as sports go. It just puts that extra burden of time commitment on the student, and so you just need to go into that knowing that you're going to need to be on top of your studies because you have to stay eligible to participate in the sport, as well as involved in what's going on with the band. So I would encourage you to shoot me an email so we can talk about what sport that is and how that might look, and it's just up to the coach and what flexibility they may provide. I know Bryce Sims plays on the varsity lacrosse team for the school. He had a game the same night we had our large group performance evaluation. His coach allowed him to show up, perform, and then I sent him away as soon as we finished our last note so he could get down to Cherokee High School for their match. He missed most of warm up, but was able to play for the game. They ended up winning the game, and so a lot of the coaches work really well with us. I do know things like volleyball, just because they're right on top of the same season, just don't work out because of the time commitment. But there are many other sports that let you do both. But shoot me an email, and we'll figure that out. Let's see. Yeah, swim overlaps a little, like Miss Campbell said, but we have some swimmers on in the band. Ends up putting you in really great shape. I know that Connor and Sam and a couple others do both. Yeah, Mr. Mentor cross country is tough. Some things that I do work out for cross country, because we've had some folks in the past, is they'll have meets on Saturday. So you come to the football game Friday night, play at halftime and do the performance, and then you duck and run right after that, so you can get home and get to sleep and get some rest for your meet the next day, so you're fresh enough to go run your best. But again, that's a kind of a case-by-case thing. Bridget, Raiders, we just have to sit down and look at the schedule and see how that goes, because I know that's a lot of Saturdays too. But I know that the Mariello brothers, I think at least one of them does a little bit of Raiders, I think, and was able to do marching band. So you may reach out to them and just talk to them about it. I know the instructors. We had lunch to do together this last year, so we talked about a lot of those kind of things, and they were really flexible. But you've got to be on top of things in order to do lots of stuff. So hope that kind of helped address those couple things. Are there any other questions before we move on to the last little bit here? I'm going to go ahead and change the slide. I'll keep looking at the chat here. So like I said, we're going to have those form links and in the PowerPoint, and we'll put these on the website as well, so they're easy to find. The first one is the marching band registration form. That one's going to be pretty all-encompassing. It's got t-shirt sizes there, so we'll be ready to order things that we need for the season, all the way down to emails, so we can make sure we communicate with parents well. Kimberly Mariello has done a great job with that this year, and if you're interested in helping with communication, we'll have an opening on the board for that. For next year, Kimberly's agreed to move over and help out with the treasurer position with Michelle for next year. And so we'll be looking for somebody to help with communication. So if you like sending emails, she's got a really good system set up, and would be more than happy to pass that off to you. Shoot me an email. We'll talk about that more in the coming days too. But she's done a really good job of communicating. We use MailChimp to send out emails, and it's a much sleeker look than the old system we used to use. And has a lot of really good information in there. We try and send that out once each week. Right now, I've been communicating a lot on social media in the band app, and so we've tried to back that down a little bit. We also don't have as much going on, other than right now we're looking for pictures and things for slideshow. So these are the links here. Again, TBA there for the county athletic physical packet. Once that's available, we'll put that link there so that you can get to the correct place and not use the old form. The family commitment plan and the band scholarship are two things that we do each year. The family commitment plan allows parents who may need to split up the payments of the band fees over a different payment plan than we already offer. So if you need to pay month by month, or we have a couple folks who wait on tax returns, or get paid twice a month, or just various different ways they get paid. And so sometimes it helps them to pay those fees in a different plan than our two traditional plans. And so that lets us work together on those payments. So there's a form there for you to build that. So we have something we've agreed upon together. If that ever changes, you just need to get with me, and we'll update that as the time comes. And as long as you're sticking to the plan you've committed to, your students will still have 100% access to all of the program that any other student would. We keep that information confidential because nobody needs to know your financial business. And work that on a case-by-case basis. I always cite the fact that my dad was a single parent for a while as we were growing up, and I don't think he was making enough money when I was in high school to afford to put me in marching band, much less myself and my sister. And so I imagine my band director would have had to work with him on the finance part of it so that I could participate. And had he not done that, I would not be where I am today and have had all the wonderful experiences with music that I've had. So I want to try and do that for our students as well. Um, Randy, you're asking about background check and mandatory reporter forms. We'll do that in mass as soon as we're allowed to do some kind of group meeting, or we'll have another one of these, or I'll just pre-record a video where we go over those things. But we'll have to wait until the updated background check. Volunteer mentor applications have been published, and those usually take way too long. I think what we've done in the past is this particular meeting we're having right now in person. We usually cover those things, or we do that in May before we get out, and then we'll just use the previous years because they're good for 12 months. But anybody who volunteers in any capacity needs to fill one out within 2 weeks of participating. So we try and do them all at one time. That helps Miss Jones in the front office because I usually take her a stack a couple inches deep. And she has to process all those up to the county. And the mandatory reporter training is pretty quick. So I just read through some forms that I've had for years that the county put together to go over. If you've been through that, you have to do it every single year, regardless of how many times you've done it. And it just makes sure that everything stays fresh and we all know what we're looking for. So hopefully that helps out. Andrew, you're asking how much the fees cost. This is a question that I don't have specifics for right now. We can talk briefly about if band is to be at 100% like it was last year, what those fees might look like, and we'll briefly go over that just so we have an idea, and it won't be any more than that. But I don't want to get ahead of what may be, so people don't make a decision to not do band because their financial situation at home changes. So we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. The last link on the screen here is for band scholarships, because people's financial situations are all very different, especially given the current state of things. Some people are experiencing layoffs, furloughs. If you're working in the service industry or as a 1099 employee, you may just not have any work to do, and so your income is significantly different than it normally would be. And hopefully, it will come back to like it was once we get past this and are able to go out in public again. But the band scholarship is there for students that are really with great financial need and need some assistance. So one of the things we'll talk about here in just a minute with the money side of things is we don't have operating money to keep doing marching band at the level we have been doing it, and scholarship most of the band in order to still do props and the same amount of competitions and travel and trips and all those kinds of things. That'll be something we have to kind of monitor as we get closer to band camp, and something there just isn't a whole lot of forecasting on. So hopefully that helps not answer your question with kind of a really long answer to that. Do CCSD staff have to do the volunteer forms? Ingram's asking. They do not have to, but I would ask if you're a CCSD staff member, maybe we'll make another Google form for this. We'll just have Google Forms everywhere for you to fill out just your name and information. So we have a list of who our county employees are. We're really fortunate at Etowah. We have a ton of band parents who are also county employees. I know I took the band to Disney a few years ago. We had some heat issues. We had to accompany a student to the hospital to go get checked out. She ended up being fine, but we wanted to be safe and careful. And I was the only one on the trip that had a county badge, and so it put us in a really tight spot that I had talked with administration about, and it was previous administration. And so now we have tons and tons and tons of folks, and that just helps provide extra layers of help because we've all been trained the same way by the county as far as things like mandatory reporter, different crisis situations, and whatnot. So we have a lot of folks like Ms. Hackney, Mr. Hackney, Cindy, and a number of other people on our parent volunteer list are county employees. You don't have to fill that out for us. If that ends up coming out that is different later, we'll get you caught up. But you're already approved by the county through a heavy background check to be around students. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a job. So that will be just fine, but really great question. So I'm going to move really quickly through these next couple slides because they are about specific things for money, which, again, are really hard to forecast. The original plan was that we'd have a $100 deposit due April 20th. And like I said at the beginning, we're going to move that potentially into May. I want a few more weeks to see before we nail down a lot of these things, because like I said, I want to be sensitive to people's financial situations changing. I know we've already had a couple parents that have talked with me a little bit about job loss already, and as a teacher, I know that I'm really blessed right now, both my wife and I, but that doesn't change somebody else's situation, and I want to be a good steward of your money, and take care of our students also and provide those opportunities for them. So I have a feeling that some of this may change a little bit, but this would be the most expensive the band would be, and this is the same as it was last year. I just changed all the due dates. But if you're a returning instrumentalist, that means you've marched with us before at the high school, so that would be next year's 10th through 12th graders. Your option number one for each group is to pay off the remaining amount by a set date. Here it says May 15th. Again, that was before coronavirus happened. But it includes an early discount by $50. You save a little money by paying up front because that helps us pay costs for drill and music and staff at the beginning of the season and equipment that we need to get bands set up. Option two is going to be split into 3 payments as in addition to the deposit. So returning instrumentalists, you see that's $155 for each of those. We're working on finalizing an online store through Square that will make it easy to make those payments. Online payments, we'll have to ask you. You'll see the prices will be up a little bit from whatever's listed because we get charged a 3% transaction fee. And if it was $10, it wouldn't be that bad, and we could probably eat it. But these hundreds of dollars turns into quite a bit when you multiply it by each student. But that'd be a 3% increase for online payments. You can still pay this dollar amount in cash, check, or money order in person. But if you're paying online, that's the way that's got to be. You see option 3 there is the Family Commitment Plan or Scholarship. The application itself is going to be due whenever the deposit, or just before the deposit's due, so we can process those. We've tried to get better about processing scholarships and family commitment plans in the previous years, and my presidents and treasurers and I all agree that we've done a better job this year of doing that, but it takes too long for us to get that information out to families, and so we're going to try and speed that up this year so on the front end instead of the back end, so you're not sitting in limbo as we move through this year. Returning guard, deposit $100, the same for everybody there. Option number 1, $450 due, and includes a $50 discount, and then the 3 payment options there. Again, I don't want to get too into detail on this because I don't know if this will stay the same, but again, this will be the most expensive that it is. Our color guard members see an increased cost because we traditionally have done a custom uniform, and those are not cheap to go and match with the show. They always turn out really, really fantastic, and they're custom to each student, so they fit and feel great. As the performers use them throughout the fall. Joey does a great job. He's the guy we contract out to do those guard uniforms. He brings in a whole lot of really great information from a design standpoint, and Paige has done a really great job on her own of coming up with these designs. So, but you can look through this a little bit, and I'll make sure and update this as soon as we know. But like I said, I want to wait till we get into the end of April to see what state the economy is looking in, if things are going to continue into June, or if they'll start returning to some kind of modified normalcy at the end of May. I just don't know, and I don't want to speak too soon because as I've talked with some folks, it's easier to consolidate things than it is to ramp them up. It's because people are having to make commitments for things like mortgages and whatnot. So if Beth can move over to the next slide, this just talks about new instrumentalists and new guards. That'd be 8th graders. And our guard members that are cadet guard members, so 8th graders that are rising to 9th graders, you would fall under the new guard category because we have to get you shoes for outside because you can't march barefoot. and a few other equipment items, as well as your uniform. So you would fall into New Guard, even though you've done inside Guard before. We have to buy a few other things because we're outside. And the new instrumentalist, that's everything from flute all the way down to percussion, front ensemble, and all that. And the added cost there from the returning marcher just includes the marching shoes that you have to wear. Helps us put away some money for marching band uniforms and a few other things, because we wear the same uniform every year versus the Guard get new ones every year. So it equates to be about the same over the course of the life of our marching band uniforms. It's just spread out over more years than it is with the color Guard. But you can see the same basic breakdown as far as things go, and we'll get the specific details out to you. We're going to look at the April 20th date you see on here for the deposit. We're going to try and make that when the marching band registration form is due, so we have information on everybody who's planning to march with us. That'll help us make sure that we communicate any of the financial stuff out with you at the appropriate time. Yeah, beautiful, Miss Hackney and Angela. It's fantastic. So again, I don't want to get into too much detail on the money side of things. This will be the most expensive that marching band will be for next year. If things are to change because of a myriad of things at this point, we of course will take that into consideration when it comes to the cost of our program. A couple of things that we're having to project and try and see what we see are things like when we'll be able to meet together again, like we talked about with color Guard tryouts. We just won't know until the governor, president, or school personnel give us the okay and the authorization. I know tomorrow teachers get a few minutes to go grab anything else out of our classroom we may need, but not closed down for the whole school year. We have to go get our temperatures taken, and we have a certain time frame we're allowed to be on campus, so it's still very much locked down. So until we know when we can get back together, that will dictate a lot of what we're able to do next fall. And then the implications of the economy on families and your financial situations will have a big impact on how much we can charge, because we don't want to charge this price if nobody can participate, because then we're effectively not going to follow through with those 3 points I talked about at the beginning of our meeting, trying to provide something fun to do, something educational, and something to create community enrichment. If we don't have any students, we don't have a program, and why are we all here to begin with? So we want to make sure that marching band this fall gives all of our students access to this activity, whatever form that may be. And from the students who have done this before, I ask that you keep an open mind about where this may go. I have everything from doomsday scenarios on what marching band will look like in the fall, all the way up to full-blown marching band and all the prep work your marching staff has put together already. Our music's closing in on being done, and those type of things. So we want to make sure we provide you the best thing that we can, but we want you to be there, and that's the primary goal. Get Beth to squish over one more slide. I think that's probably close to the end. And this just breaks down the option 3 payments that we talked about earlier, the family commitment plan and band scholarships and bullet points. For those who may not have listened to the meeting this long. So if you want to check that out for some more help there. And again, the last bullet on each thing is that personal information is kept private. So I think that may be the last slide. You want to hit one more time and see? Cool. Can you go back to the beginning for me? All right. The next thing, I'm gonna go back to my notes here. I'm gonna cut back in screen too. So not knowing kind of when we'll be able to get back together, we'll put those kind of things, any communication, any changes in dates, fees, deadlines, forms, all that kind of stuff, we'll put in the band app as a post. And if you're not familiar with the band app and you just jumped in there today, it works a little bit like Facebook notices, pin things to the top. There's a notice bar. I can only make 2 things important, but that's what important means, I guess, is not everything is important. But things we want to highlight, at least for a short-term time, we'll put into notices there at the top, because it will get lost in the scroll of your screen. So, like I said, as we look at the broader impact of the situation, marching band deposits and due dates into May, so we can kind of get through April a little bit and see kind of how that develops. I just want to make sure, again, that we're sensitive to families and their financial situations as we move forward, because without you guys, there's not much here. I got into teaching not because of the notes, but because of the people. And so I need you here too. And this will look and feel different than it has in years past, and that's okay. And because I know our students and I know our families, it's going to be the most spectacular thing that it could be. And then hopefully, as things begin to mend, people get healthy, economy begins to pick back up, we'll be able to get back to what we're more familiar with. And like I said towards the beginning, it gives us an opportunity to maybe put a different perspective that we may not have done before on the work that we're doing. We have a unique position in our community to really affect people in a positive way, and we want to find ways that we can do that, both on Friday nights and other times. So I encourage you to fill out as much of the forms as you can now. Medical form should be able to complete most, if not all, of that form, because it doesn't require a doctor. It's things that you should know about your child, and then the marching band registration form, which will have lots of things there, and just answer the questions to the best of your ability. If things in your personal situation change, just shoot me an email so that we're aware of it and we can work on that together a little bit. So a couple of things here at the end, and then we'll do a couple questions here as we're at our hour mark. But talking with presidents, we think it's a good financial decision. We were in the position and going to purchase new uniforms for this fall. At this point, because they can't come in and measure our students to begin with, we wouldn't get them until the end of the season anyway. And that allows some capital to sit in our reserves as we navigate the uncertainty of this fall. We obviously don't want to dip into that money if we can help it, because we do need those new uniforms, but we can get another season out of the current uniforms that we have. Our uniform staff, Miss Lil, who's graduating this year, and Chris have done a really great job of working on that with us. We do have our designs that may give us some time to really push up the hype on that as we go into next year. But we're going to delay that purchase for one year. So we'll start measuring for those things December or January, and begin that process if the money's still there when we get there. But we think that makes sense because we can get another year out of our uniforms. It doesn't make sense to buy those just because. We were in a good place to do that, but it makes sense to push that off for 1 year so we have some reserves there for the unknown and uncertain times. And then the last thing to talk about really briefly that I've seen some folks post about a little bit is the Chicago trip that was scheduled for next November. As of right now, the plan is to move ahead with that. I'm going to be talking, though, with the travel store who sets that up for us, as well as our athletic director and school administration, to kind of talk about the different things that may impact that from a county standpoint. Obviously, they canceled a lot of trips this spring for a lot of groups. And it was difficult, but also I think was the right thing to do given our current situation. And while that trip is in November, one of the other impacts that I'm really concerned about is just the financial impact of what's going on currently. And again, I want to be a good steward of your money. That trip was expensive. It was a good price for what it was. And if we can still do it, I'd like to still do it. But I also want to be realistic in our expectations of our families and our students, because even if you decide to still go on that trip, you may find out closer to time that you need that money for other things that are much more essential. So I want to make sure that I keep in mind those things. So we'll make sure and communicate if there are any changes to the Chicago trip really, really soon, so that you can make those plan adjustments or deal with that as it may need to be dealt with. But I just want to speak to that just at the very end because it was a trip set up for our marching band group that we're looking at that currently and our different options there and talking with county administration to kind of see what their suggestion is for that. It's pretty far down the road, but again, I think even if things are safe to go out at that point, the financial ramifications may still be affecting families, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves at home first. And we'll communicate any decisions made with the Chicago trip as soon as we can and make sure that's really clear for you. So I'm going to pull my phone back up, not to be texting and talking at the same time, but I do want to open up for questions here at the end. If there's something that I didn't cover or a question that you had, pop it in the chat there. I guess we'll kind of wrap up with that. So if I've answered your questions, you can feel free to log off. We'll post this video here in the band app, and we'll try and get that pushed out on social media as well for those who weren't here, and send that out via Twitter and Facebook. So thanks for coming tonight. If that's what you needed to get from us, and I'll be looking at the chat down here. Should we continue to pay for Chicago? I'd ask that maybe you hold on to that money in your account. And if we continue with it, we should have some decisions on that real shortly. Then we'll let you know to go ahead and make those payments. But if not, just hold on to that, because if the trip were to be canceled, that'd make refunding a lot easier on our treasurers. So I would recommend maybe right now, for the time being, just to hold on to that. And maybe just put that in a savings account for now. So if we continue, it's easy to move over and catch back up. And if not, that'll make it a lot easier when it comes to refunds and things. Let's see. Eligible band letter will still be eligible. Yep, so information about bars and letters and that kind of stuff are going to come out in Sunday's email. I'll reduce the point value required for the year because we missed a lot of performances here at the end of the year for everybody. So we'll still follow through with that this year. You'll still be able to earn your bar or your letter as long as you met the minimum requirements this year. Ingram, did that answer your question earlier that I saw from Lori? If you have school instruments, just hang tight. I have no idea how we're going to do that. I've thought about maybe making a Microsoft form for you to fill out at home with your instrument and to submit some pictures of it so I can verify the condition that it's in. We haven't gotten any information from that just yet. So just hold tight, and I'll send out information about what to do about school instruments, whether it's Mr. Johnson's or whether it's Etowah High School's instrument. If you do marching band and guard, pay them both at the same time. Marching band and guard, you mean winter guard, or do you mean marching band, color guard all at the same time? I'm thinking maybe you mean marching band and winter guard. Those are two separate seasons, and so we do those payments at different times, so we're not asking you to double up. And because we do separate tryouts, paying all at one time would mean if for some reason you weren't selected for winter guard, we have to refund that money to you. So we wait until the winter guard season to do payments for winter guard. So awesome, Ingram. Thank you, Anessa and Bethany. Yeah, it's my pleasure having this meeting. It's definitely out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I feel like I've just actually rambled for an hour and 7 minutes. So hopefully something was helpful for you. I hate that I didn't get to see all of your faces. I'm sorry you had to look at mine. But hopefully this will be good moving forward too, because it'll keep all of our information in one place. Okay, awesome. There any other questions we've got for today? Again, I apologize for not being able to go into specifics about money, because that's probably what drove you to the meeting, was wondering how we're going to handle that. And again, I can't forecast that far. And unlike other things where I can call old-timey band directors who've been doing this forever, nobody else knows how to navigate this. I have been talking a lot with other Cherokee County band directors, and talking with other band directors across the state too, just kind of trying to use the hive mind to figure out how we navigate this, because we all have students we all care about. We want them to be able to participate, and we realize that the world changed almost overnight to a very different world. We want to make sure that we're there for our students, and that we all have a place to be as band and guard kiddos. So thank y'all so much. Awesome. Thanks, Gwen. Awesome. Cool. And just a reminder here at the very end of the meeting, if you have any questions and you've made it to this part of the meeting and you weren't with us live, 1, congratulations, you're a trooper. And 2, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I probably am not going to check my email a lot next week, just to disconnect from technology during spring break. But we'll be back at my computer daily after spring break. My email address is Stephen, STEPHEN, .long, LONG, at CherokeeK12.net. That'll come straight to my work email, and a good way to get a hold of me that way. So for my students, if you'll help spread the word, especially amongst the guard community, because we saw at the beginning of the meeting we had a little bit of trouble with that, with the winter guard to full band groups, just not over into that, and help make sure that they get access to this information too. because we want everybody, not to quote Uncle Sam, but I want you to be in the band for next year. My wife has her hand over her face right now. If you could see her, you wouldn't want to see her. So, and to circle back to to go back to instruments, for those of you who play an instrument like French horn, tuba, baritone, and whatnot that are different from marching band, we'll figure out at some point to get you an instrument specific to marching band. But the ones that you have currently will work fine for any practice you need to do over the summer, with minimal change. The only difference, I guess, will be that the instrument will be heavier because it's out here and not across your lap or on your knee. So I encourage you to practice, whether you're 8th grade, 12th grade, color guard. Miss Page has been putting in how-to videos inside of the color guard band group. We've got a special one just for color guard. If you're a color guard person and you want access to that, just email me and I can get you a link, or talk to any of your winter guard leadership and they can help you get into there. Miss Hackney, everybody else can help you with that. So yeah, pass the word along. I appreciate y'all being here and joining me in my living room for this important meeting. This has definitely been a new thing. So I see Sarah's got their virtual fist bump, so I'm going to give you a fist bump here. Hopefully that went into frame because it's delayed on my screen. And Miss Hackney with the tried and true, hydrate, don't dehydrate. Make sure you drink your water even though you're inside. And remember rule number 1 along family rules, don't be a jerk, and you'll navigate your life pretty smoothly after that. So I thank you very much for your time tonight, and we're going to conclude this meeting again. Shoot me an email if you have any questions. Thank you so much, everybody.